So, should we be looking also on that article? Let me have a look. Just like absolutely horrible webs with millions of ads. It's gonna be kind of something to go through. No, not interested in any nonsenses from you. Just in case you're gonna be interested in reading it yourselves. So I found this through the Age of Empires Discord in the Age of Mythology discussion there. So we know there's this amazing game inside Age of Mythology that maybe wasn't quite right out the gate, and that's what we're doing this time with Retold. This is already quite a bit egregious statement, of course, because if Age of Mythology wasn't a good game, you wouldn't be trying to milk it for another remaster. Second, already, just to be clear about here. So yeah, that is a very, very brave statement if you want to be taken seriously in any kind of fashion. Mr. Isgreen, the lead designer, by the way, of World's Edge on Age of Empires franchise. So this is apparently their approach. So they think that Age of Mythology is trash, and they are having some kind of God's given mission to somehow fix it. So I guess, well, all those millions of people and hundreds of thousands looking at those Retold actually sneak peeks and hyping it up and wanting to play it again are probably just like completely stupid. And they just played a complete trash game and, well, no, I don't know. For me personally, it just like doesn't entirely add up too well. Now, and World's Edge founder and studio creative director Adam Isgreen, or Isgreen actually, I think in his thread, sorry for that, talks Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition DLC and Age of Mythology Retold. So you want to keep AoE going into perpetuity? No, okay, that's pretty bad news. Therefore, as well, we are really heading into Paradox Entertainment already in Age of Empires 2 with the DLCs. So you're gonna be having like a $20 base game and then $2 million for all the extra DLCs and extra content. On one side, maybe it's can be saying that they are releasing new content. On the other, no, there is a reason that Paradox Entertainment is kind of butt of a lot of jokes in the gaming industry. So it seems like that we are heading in the similar direction. No, and well, if they're kind of aiming to be balancing it for as long as Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition and basically not heading anywhere at all, yeah, we are kind of getting into the League of Legends territory. We're just kind of balancing for balancing, I guess, just to be pretending that we work. No, but nonetheless, Friday was an exciting day for Age of Empires fans who learned during the Age of Empires New Year, New Age livestream, that various titles in the franchise were getting updates, including the new Victor's Vanquished DLC for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. We also learned about the new Age of Mythology Retold, again coming simultaneously to Xbox and PC sometime this year. Yeah, that was kind of interesting that it's gonna be simultaneous release for Xbox, not Game Pass, but console. So that's gonna be both of that, and apparently it's gonna be crossplay immediately as it is for Age of Empires 2 DE, as opposed to Age of Empires 4, which is not crossplay, by the way, still. So we are gonna be playing Xbox players together with PC players. It's not entirely a problem in 2D, just of course on Xbox you are massively disadvantaged. No, and it will be coming to Xbox Game Pass, of course, like the other games produced by Xbox Game Studios and World's Edge. In the wake of such glorious news, I had the chance to speak with the World's Edge founder and studio creative director Adam Isgreen about what to expect from these scenarios, new scenarios, civilization, civs. Shut up. With that advertisement everywhere, it's like horrible web, seriously. Look at that. What they need to be doing, apparently. And in the wake of such glorious news about what to expect from these new scenarios, civilization, civs, and real-time strategy RTS adventures. This interview has been condensed and edited for clarity. So Age of Empires 2, I guess we can be just gonna going through all of it since I was doing it also originally. So dedicated fanbase and intuitive mechanics. Yeah, as is intuitive, for example, what he's promoting all the time. Drag scrolling, like clicking with right mouse and dragging around. Like, what the hell is actually intuitive about that in today's day and age? It was something that was actually worked through 20 years ago, or 25 years ago, actually. coincidentally when Age of Empires kind of came out, and thinking probably Warcraft 1. But nonetheless, for example, I think in that Command and Conquer, which was what he was heading before, is where it's, if I'm not mistaken, is there. But nonetheless, when I remarked on how incredibly rare it is for a game to maintain as much interest over the years as H2 has, Isgreen was quick to attribute this to the dedicated fanbase as well as the game's approachability. So much of the game is so instantly accessible by so many people across the world. It's something I've always loved about the H series, with an incredible community and incredible mods. I mean, the stuff that people do with the game is crazy and creative. It's always fun to see how passionate people are about it. We thought there is no way people are going to want more civilizations, and yet we want more. Okay, so straight lie right here, because of course they knew that, and of course that's why they went in, because they knew they could do that. Because if you go, for example, to Reddit, there's like basically few versions of topics, and new civilizations has always been there, like one of the top ones. So yep, not true. I did not predict that we would still be making civilizations for this game into 40s, 50s. I'm going to get it wrong, but a lot of civilizations, which obviously is not doing any service to the game, and especially its competitive part. And a lot more than any other RTS game I've ever even conceived, with that many civilizations, and I think that's fantastic. So again, for like normal single player or casual play, it's really great, it's cool. But it does have its issues elsewhere, especially in the competitive part. But upon hearing his remarks, I congratulated the H team for keeping H2 interested with frequent updates and new content. I'm lucky to be interested even without that, but yeah, making it even more interesting. To this, Isgreen remained humble and said he had to thank fans for maintaining interest in the game during the dark years when it wasn't supported. You know, I have to credit the community for keeping the game alive for so long. Finally, at least something, but no mention of Woobly, of course. The only thing that we are here for. Why we are even here with the remasters, Woobly and user patch. Nah, he's not gonna say that, because truth never can be coming out. That would be, of course, meaning they would actually have to admit they actually still have worse version of the game on 2D than the actually original game they tried to be. Basically tried to be improving upon, let's say, but they haven't succeeded still. Unfortunately, in many mechanical parts, like pathfinding and other things, user patch version on Woobly is still better than 2DE. Sad story, 5 years after release, but it's kind of like how it goes with the quality of development. So the modders, the balance patches, and all of the stuff that was done even when Microsoft wasn't fully supporting the title. It was before my time here at Microsoft, but the community could not have been better about really keeping the game up, keeping the game going. Absolutely true. I'm really humbled that we've been able to work with them to just keep making the game better and better. So creating fun remake DLC means running with each game's original bugs? No, and adding about 2 million of their own, unfortunately. Later I asked how the H team feels seeing H2's continued success after triumphantly bringing control mechanics to Xbox. And seeing Sultan's Ascent DLC sell better than any H expansion before it. That's for Age of Empires 4, of course. So in response, Isgreen talked about how happy this made him and went on to say that meeting fan needs... What? Oh, yeah, this way. That meeting fan needs means running with an original game's bugs. Let me just say that, first off, I love that the game is more popular now than it was when it was released, right? We have streams, we have ridiculous price, Vololo tournaments and apartment cups, and all of this awesome play for it. And esports for it as well. I love that they games that stand the test of time. There's bugs and quirks in the games that, you know, as a game designer, as a creator, I would be like, oh, do we have to keep that? And it's like, no, we cannot have to keep that. Because even if it was a bug, now it's something that everybody relies on, right? And like, did they really intend for houses to be walls when Ensemble built the original? Probably not, but you can't get rid of that. You can change that, and you can go around that kind of stuff before it's part of the DNA of the game. It is very interesting in comparison to the approach that they are taking to Age of Mythology Retold, right? Here, he's basically like even wanted to keep the bugs for AoE 2, and in Age of Mythology, well, let's just kind of throw it away, it's complete trash, and let's remake it. I mean, like, that's really kind of quite a bit jarring, this kind of admission here, what they think about Age of Mythology, actually. They straight think that it's trash. They straight think that is a bad game. Jesus, damn. That is so actually kind of surprising to hear them say it out loud. They probably do not even realize what they're saying here, because that's something you don't say. But nonetheless, yeah, gonna be labor of love made a loaded modder turned employee. Okay. When I ask about the H2 Victors and Vanquished DLC, Isgreen is playing to be how Ramsey Abdulrahim, sorry, Philadelphia, Philly Soja. Yeah, this name I do recognize. I wasn't recognizing him on the real name when he was on the video. But who talked about the DLC on the live stream was the main creative mind behind these new scenarios. For those who might not know, Abdulrahim is lauded among H enthusiasts for having been a prolific modder who eventually became part of the official H team. His passion for this RTS game can easily be seen through his attention to detail, intriguing campaigns, and portrayal of his story. Victors and Vanquished scenarios are all different, Isgreen said. They all feature different leaders, different places in the world. Ramsey is a machine, the sole creator of this as a labor of love. He just loves H so much that you know it's funny. Everyone has roles, of course, working here at World's Edge. They are developers for things we've got to do, and Ramsey is in the business group, but you just cannot tear him away from the HN campaigns. He loves it to death, and he will just do them right. And I think this is a really fun thing to do, to kind of have this DLC that's just campaigns, right? That's all these unique scenarios and missions. Yeah, this is something that was expected from the get-go, that they're gonna be doing campaign scenarios or kind of DLCs, because everybody expected that they're not gonna be going the Civilization way, because it really isn't too great for the game. It's just like creating all kinds of issues continuously. Even from the design perspective, kind of like you always have to be thinking some new like perks and stuff, and you're getting way crazier all the time, and just kind of like going deeper and deeper away from what Age of Empires 2 actually is. So that's why the campaigns were mostly preferred. So they kind of get into it with a bit of a delay, but there we are. No, and man, I get my butt kicked by them. I will tell you like Ramsey builds for players that are, you know, good players of Age of Empires. So I'm really excited to see how the community kind of tears into them and what they think of them. I think that is the fun thing, is being able to kind of let passionate people on our team express themselves in ways that we think other people will enjoy. Scenarios are so spread out, and there's such a diverse set of them that everyone can find something to really enjoy. And of course, we still have difficult levels, right? So you can always turn down the AI and do things to make them easier for you. In response to Isgreen's comments, I asked if we should expect these 19 upcoming scenarios to be especially difficult. However, he assured me that they are complex enough to provide a different experience each time, but will still be enjoyable for a range of players. No, I wouldn't say they're difficult, I'm a very casual RTS player, so for me, right, I'm like, you know, my fast castle skills are not the most neat, right, that they could be. So I think that the great thing is, the scenarios are so spread out, and there's such a... Okay, so I apparently don't need to be reading those highlights. I have a set of them that everyone can find something to really enjoy, and of course, we still have difficult levels, right? So we can always turn down the AI and do things to make them easier for you. But what I like is that they are made for real fans of Age of Empires, right? And that you can really sink in your teeth into them and not have them be like a one and done kind of thing. You can go back to them and try them again, right? Yeah, and there's some scenarios you can play different ways, right? But it's different depending on which way you go. And so you can play the scenario multiple times and never see the same thing. Isgreen went on to explain his excitement for the ninja units and the stealth aspect they bring to Age. I have this ninja archetype of unit. How do we get this in Age of Empires? And the ninja as just the shinobi was a perfect way to kind of go about doing that and getting that kind of more spy stealth sneak, super micro, like, you know, I'm going to do something, and I love that when we've been able to pull things, you know, from other RTS games that we loved, or elements that we haven't been able to export right yet in Age, and that's the amazing thing. There's so much more that we can do. So I kind of wonder if that's gonna be somewhat like really edit into Japanese. There was a bit of a talk about that in the community as well before, maybe like a ninja unit instead of the samurai and stuff. So I wonder if that's gonna be like necessarily really edit to it or not. No, Mythology isn't the definitive edition, it's Retold to improve upon the original. No, yeah, well, okay, so let's see what they are. can I be saying about that? So we switch gears to Age of Mythology Retold and discuss how awesome it was. And this game will be the first Age game to simultaneously release on both Xbox and PC. Isgreen uploaded a team that brought Age of Empires to Definitive Edition to Xbox, specifically shouting out the team's control mechanics like the villager priority wheel. We then discussed what kind of gameplay to expect from Mythology Retold on both PC and Xbox. So yeah, and you know, the council for the Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition for Xbox team knocked it out of the park in terms of taking all of the ideas and synthesizing them and iterating until they found that wonderful magic with like the automated villages, the villager priority system and the side menus. And those things are so great that those are actually going to be to move forward with us regardless of platform. Yeah, frankly, it seems like they did a good job on the Xbox kind of like versions of the game. They seem to be very well received. So that probably is, I haven't played myself, but seems to be good. And I think that the stuff the console version has taught us is that we can be even better with accessibility even on the PC side than we are right now. You're going to see more and more of that. And Age of Mythology Retold is going to be one of those, one of the ones that systems like Villager Priority and the side menus are stuff are gonna show up on PC side as well. Jesus. So they just gonna be basically having automatic village kind of allocation for you. I think that's what they have on the Xbox. So basically you're gonna be able to turn that on. That's gonna be an option I can imagine not being. And therefore the AI is gonna be automatically sending villages to resources that according to some build order or according to your current needs. Okay. I mean, like, unless it's forced, then it's gonna be fine. Like, help for the casuals, I guess. So of course that should be meaning that autoqueue will be still staying in. There's a lot of discussion about it as well going on. So yeah, that's a bit interesting actually, they're going this way. But really just kind of showcases the really casuals are the main target of Retold with absolutely everything they do. And optional, of course, right? Like optional, of course. You don't have to use them, but they're there so that people that want to enjoy them don't have to only play on the console, be able to enjoy those features. So knowing that some people are averse to age control mechanics brought in for Xbox, I asked if there would be a way to make it so only people playing on a keyboard could play together and only playing people playing with controls could play together when Age of Mythology Retold comes out. It's really not like a real problem. It's a problem for the controllers, guys, because you legit don't have chance against somebody who is having some decent control of mouse and keyboard. But the other way, it's not really a problem for competitive side, so don't see that as an issue. I don't think we've aligned on perfectly like, oh, this is the rule set for ranked versus unranked. But those are all options and things we can explore. And what you want to do is, you know, we saw this with Auto Scout, right? When he put that in on H2, there was a lot of controversy over Auto Scout. But then people played with it and they're like, wow, this thing doesn't scout very well. Even though it's kind of used in practically every game anyway. Because simply, you just scout what you want and then you're just gonna be putting in Auto Scout, right? It's kind of very often what happens. So it is still quite a huge help. And we're like, yeah, that's intentional actually. Like you put it in to help people, especially early in the game, but we didn't intend it to be the only way to scout, or use scout. And so as we look at features like this, you know, I mentioned villager priority, but I don't know if you're aware of villager priority isn't as efficient as a player doing all this stuff, right? No, of course, but nonetheless, it's still quite a good help. There's delays and there's things that we've intentionally put in the game, that is still really great and easy to play, but the real player can be more efficient if they micro everything. But yeah, we look at options, you know, again, this is one of those things. We listen to the community and see what they really want. But what we really want to do is just open the games up to more players. And we know that not everyone has the mind to be able to micro as much as others, and that, you know, they can enjoy the game this way. But at that point, there is of course a difference between kind of playing casually and competitively, right? So that goes back to kind of rules for the competitive. As do you really want to be necessarily kind of cutting off some level of difficulty from that? There is a very thin line in there, which you actually want to be kind of having available, because it is practically cheating, right? So you're just gonna have to be available, kind of like aware what kind of level of cheating practically you want to be allowing into the game. So yes, it's kind of like on Similar level to autocue. This is gonna go in maybe a bit further, but the level is kind of similar. So if you are used to that, then there is going to be a bit of an interesting maybe argument about that. But again, just if you're gonna be microing it yourself, you always should be more efficient. But it could be creating some kind of, we're gonna need to do that on some lower levels. So if you are talking like high skilled players, those are not gonna be affected. But possibly the kind of 1600s and the new players, they could be getting a bit annoyed by that maybe. Or they're gonna be simply forced to use it, right? So, does have a few things there that should be thought about. And I think as people get over the initial kind of hump like, oh my gosh, this stuff is in PC now, what the heck? I think they'll see that, oh, this is actually not that big of a deal as I thought it would be. I pointed out that the other Age games have all been getting a lot of DLC and asked if we could expect any expansions for Mythology Retold. Well, Isgreen couldn't say anything about that. Of course, they are gonna be coming. He did point out that Mythology Retold is a retelling rather than the definitive edition. In other words, it aims to improve aspects of gameplay from the original which had mixed responses at launch rather than being completely true to it. No, frankly, Age of Mythology, I don't think there were too many criticizing things there. Age of Mythology was quite a bit lauded on release, so these are a bit strong words. It is for a reason still considered one of the greatest strategies and great campaigns and whatever. So just on a personal note, I absolutely love Age of Mythology to death. Yeah, of course. There's a reason we wanted to wait to do this because Retold is much more than Age. So why not do Age of Mythology too? How about that? There's a reason we didn't call it Definitive Edition because many of us in the studio and many of the fans love Mythology. We all know there's this amazing game inside of Age of Mythology that maybe didn't get all out of it, just quite right out the gate, and that's what we're doing this time around with Retold. We already talked about audacity of this statement at the start. There are some pretty significant changes to how god powers work, significant changes to how you can control your myth units and use their abilities, and things that really change the game, like the gameplay is different. Goes to somebody like, for example, Grassingroom who's saying it's gonna be playing the same. It will be very much different game with all the changes they're doing. So the great thing is, all of our community council, you know, we're engaged with our community pretty much 24/7, straight up lie. They're not, and they are very selective with whom. And then, well, even with people they should be listening to, they very commonly don't. And that's experience from 2DE, from Age of Mythology, from Age of Empires 4. So yeah. That is definitely just a bit of a PR talk here. And they mostly kind of like using those people just to be basically selling that we are working with the community. And if you're gonna be having somebody like Viper, I don't know, Mista, Magic and others, basically like people are gonna be thinking, hey, if those people are involved, it has to be great what they are doing, right? So that's basically the only reason they are doing it. They don't entirely kind of need any kind of further input too much. They're just gonna need to be making sure that they somehow enthrall the community. That's kind of what they're doing with it mostly, based on how they work with the information they get back after. So not like they will be not listening at all, but they are very selective about what they want to listen to. So that's not what I'll be kind of understanding under listening to the community. I have a very different idea about what that means. Nonetheless, and they've been playing the game for months with us, and they're really happy, I guess is the way to say it. So far, you know, yeah, that's also kind of, people were very happy with Age of Empires 4 testing when they were invited in. And well, we know what actually released, right? And what were the opinions after release. So, and even during actually closed beta, frankly, and beta open one. So really, this needs to be always taken with, no, practically not taken seriously at all. Because that's also a problem that if you're gonna be inviting people over and kind of getting them priority access like that, they just gonna be, depends on their character, but plenty of them are gonna be getting inherently biased because they're gonna be just kind of wanting to kind of reward the developers for kind of trusting them with that and inviting them in, right? So they don't have all that much of a need or even want to be potentially criticizing whatever they see, even if they don't agree with it, for example, necessarily. So yeah, it's just like, it's quite a bit psychologically complex, these things, and that's why the devs are doing it in the first place, especially the big corporates. Exactly, like for example here. So you always need to be very careful about those claimings, as they have a lot of appendages to them. But nonetheless, we'll see what's gonna come and how they're gonna be trying to defend it after, of course. So far, you know, just teased with the live stream today, and we didn't show you gameplay, and we didn't show things that I know people want. Like, I was on Reddit and I was reading the comments on the gaming forums, and it's great to see that people are so excited and they want more. But just know that we know that. I acknowledge the original Age of Mythology's rough launch, and the reception back. No. No. The game was very well received. This is not true at all. Extended Edition was a complete trash and rough launch. No, that's not even enough to say rough launch with Extended Edition. But Age of Mythology, the original one, that wasn't that bad. It was definitely straining computers back then, which is why there is a bit limited pop limit and huge UI. But it was a great game from the get-go, actually. So, yeah, this is a very history revisiting statement, just kind of trying to justify what they are currently doing. If he said it about Extended Edition, for sure. That was complete trash. And did irrevocable harm to the Age of Mythology community, unfortunately. And, well, they are even just like, even though it sold 2 million copies, they are trying to basically make it look like that it never existed. I wonder if it's gonna be mentioned somewhere at some time, but even in the history of the Age of franchise, on the 25th anniversary, Extended Edition wasn't there at all, besides Age of Empires Online as well. So, that's exactly how much they like their legacy, right? Only if it somehow fits their purpose. And there are plenty of people who like Age of Mythology Extended Edition, so that's just like spitting in their faces, right? Not even mentioning that. So just gonna own up that simply it wasn't done right. It still kept the game alive to some degree, even through the harm it did. So just gonna kind of like live with that. It's not gonna be controversial. You're just gonna like, really, for some reason, afraid of it. And it's of course making them not entirely reliable in what they say regarding Age of Mythology. So to me, Age of Mythology should have been one of the most popular Age of Empires games, and it was kind of criminal to me that it wasn't. Well, easy problem, right? Warcraft 3 and Blizzard. It just kind of came out at the kind of wrong time, and it didn't have kind of like the same, kind of, let's say, level of the campaign. Even though it's really loaded for one of the best campaigns, you just kind of can see difference between Warcraft 3, right, and this. And simply people just kind of were more about the Blizzard game, and that was, in my opinion, that was one of the chief reasons why it didn't get more traction, but it still did have really solid ones. Mythology was a very popular and very successful game. So kind of saying that it maybe wasn't good or whatnot, that's, yeah. No, nonetheless, could have been more. Of course, everything can be more. And he wanted to get there, right? So that's what myself and the rest of the teams and everyone that's working on the game believes really wholeheartedly, that it can be a fantastic game. It is a fantastic game. Like, really. They seem to be really thinking that there is something to significantly fix, that the game is trash. Like, what the hell is going on here? And you want to bring that game out, so that's what you've been spending all the time. And what you've been really hush-hush about, what you've been doing on the game so far. So you'll have information coming out about the game. You can expect as you get closer to launch. You'll definitely ramp up the content and the coverage to make sure that people get everything they want to know about the game out there, because there is a lot to talk about. Yeah, as I'm thinking, on the June game show, most probably gonna be showing some in-game trailer at minimum with some kind of information dump. I'm expecting that Gamescom is gonna be playable demo on the spot and probably open beta. That's usually how they time it, so that's what I'll be expecting. And you have no idea how much I want to gush about a whole bunch of stuff in that game that I can't right now, but I promise you, we will at some point. So, will Age games simultaneously release on Xbox and PC going forward? Like as if they are supposed to be having something more, really. That's gonna be interesting to see their answer. Knowing that Mythology Retold is going to be the first Age game to launch simultaneously on PC and Xbox, I ask if we can expect Age of Empires games to release on both PC and Xbox going forward. You know, I can't say. I can't promise that. It depends the way that we are building the games and the way that we look at our technologies, you know. It can be challenging because we have so many different engines right now. again, there's nothing more for them to do. So this is kind of interesting. This is even talked about. So are they going for Age of Empires 5? Or are they wanting to be doing definitive edition of a definitive edition? Or what is right now exactly this about? Huh. Curious. So you know we've got the 2 engine 3, which fortunately is also part of the Myth engine, the 4 engine, you know. So there's a lot going on there, and every time that we try to do something together, it can be challenging because of moving the tech, making sure they all work together. We're going to keep going down there to make sure that we can really deliver a great RTS experience for people that want to sit on a big, comfy couch with a big TV and control in their hand. The only thing I would be very curious about and what they could do is Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. But that's gonna be definitely set on by Disney. So I'll be surprised if they wanted to leave that. But I mean, like, Microsoft is a huge enough company. They could maybe make something happen. But Galactic Battlegrounds was fairly popular as well. They could probably make a bank with that as well, especially with the revival of Star Wars in general. But 3 Definitive Edition, our discussion eventually led us to talk about 3 Definitive Edition and the 2 new civilization it will be getting. You've got 2 new civs coming to Age of Empires 3, you got Poland and Denmark, which, yeah, it's funny. I'm like, don't say the names, and then they show the flags in the live stream. I'm like, okay, well, I will share the names. I mean, like, everybody knew that, so I'm not sharing anything. And nonetheless, there's a nice trial you can do and play H3 for free now. We really believe in the title that, you know, is a totally unique experience in the H pantheon of games. I'm very curious if maybe something like that will be coming for Mythology as well. But considering how hardcore they are into the single player content, it's kind of like having, from one side, you could be saying yes, and just kind of like make people pay for the campaigns. On the other hand, looking at what, probably if they're gonna be looking at the competitive community now, they're gonna be thinking, well, what are we gonna be exactly getting by that? So let's just gonna make it paid all around, and we'll see maybe somewhere in the future. So that's pretty much like impossible to tell. They probably gonna just release it full, and maybe there's gonna be some, I mean, like, there can be trial on civilizations, right? We are not entirely having enough, so that probably can't be working too well. So my guess at this point will be probably not. Probably no free-to-play multiplayer or anything. But nonetheless, the deck building system, the home cities, totally changed the way that the game feels and flows. Even the gameplay itself, right? Ensemble took a lot of risks and tried a lot of crazy things. You know, to try and find other nuggets of really good strategy that they could do with H3. And I think that they succeeded. By the way, if you think about it, and the shipments that you have from the cards in Age of Empires 3, there is practically like a continuation of the multi-god powers from Titans. Because Titans was practically a bit of a testing ground for Age of Empires 3. And it was also rushed because of they already had to be moving to the new game. So it isn't as good as it could have been, possibly. But yeah, practically the shipments are a continuation of multi-god powers in a certain way. So they were having quite a bit of a continuous development line, Ensemble Studios learning from the previous games. So adding more civs to H3 is just another way to show that we really do still care about the game and want to keep pushing and adding content to it that players can jump in and really experience. And of course, having some further microtransactions, which they of course said before that they are not gonna be doing, but yeah, well, here we are with the skins in both here, in Age of Empires 3 and also already in Age of Empires 2, so that's probably something we can expect in Age of Mythology to happen as well. So just gonna be ready for that. And Age of Empires Mobile provides RTS elements on the go. After discussing the main PC and Xbox Age games, Isgreen expressed his excitement for the upcoming Age of Empires Mobile, which won't be a true RTS game, but will have Age RTS elements that players can enjoy on the go. Plus, players can chill and fish. Frankly, it kinda looked alright. I have never played any kind of mobile games like these, but it just like didn't look entirely too cheap. So I guess from other games that I'm seeing here and there, it actually looked somewhat normal. I don't know what kind of monetization the scheme they have for that, so no idea really about that. But well, If you enjoy those games, go ahead. So how are you gonna do an RTS on mobile? It's not exactly perfectly an RTS, right? It still is a strategy game. There's many elements of RTS in it. But the thing that I love is Timmy has been a fantastic partner. Like, I couldn't ask for a better partner, honestly, in building a game in the terms of the respect. That level of respect that we try to bring to H2 is what I want to for the mobile title as well. It's supposed to be somewhat like a reskin of another already existing RTS game or kind of similar style of game. So they have some kind of working basis that they apparently somewhat, I don't know, work upon and iterate upon. So I guess there's gonna be some tested basis already. No, and of course it's gonna be mainly aimed at China. Where, for example, Age of Empires 4 is supposedly very popular. So they could be probably making quite a solid bank on that. So you can definitely understand why this is a somewhat of a main priority for them. Make a Pokemon clone. You're gonna be kind of catching some units and villages on the grasslands. So the thing that we wanted to make sure is that there were the through lines, right? You know, I always think of games almost like cars in some ways, right? You look at an old Aston Martin and then you look at a new Aston Martin and the grills are very similar, right? And you've got this curve and a bigger curve, and that was the thing that you wanted to make sure with mobile, that it had Age of Empires DNA and you could see through the lines. I can't tell you how absorbed I get playing Age of Empires mobile. You know, like you can fish, but it's a mini game. That's part of that unique dynamic of Age of Empires, right? Is that I can build a city, I can go wage a war, or I can just like chill and fish like. And I love the diversity, you know? And yeah, it's really great to see that it's being captured well and that, you know, it's still upheld that kind of pace that we love in Age of Empires. Age of Empires has a bright future ahead, and it's centered around keeping fans happy. So winding down our conversation, I asked Isgreen if there was anything else you'd like to say about Age games or Age of Mythology Retold after discussing things for a while. He finally ended by saying that his goal is to keep Age going by listening to fans. Today, as we're doing the streams and going on gaming forums and just combing through everything I could, reading the articles coming out just to make sure like, okay, what can we do, you know? And you want to keep everyone happy. You want to keep Age going into perpetuity. There's a lot of excitement in store for Age fans who will be able to experience expansions like the latest Victors and Vanquished, DLC for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, as well as the brand new Age of Mythology Retold when they release. You can dive into these RTS games now on both Xbox and PC, or register for the upcoming Age of Empires mobile. So yeah, you can find all of that here. I have actually some kind of discussion here or not on this web. Okay, 0 comments. It's kinda too new, I guess, for that. But nonetheless, no, all kinds of expected information. Of course, the classic platitudes, listening to the community, everything like that. That should be expected, but really, the way they speak about Age of Mythology, that it actually somehow was bad, that kind of seems like they are just like basically trying to put the game down so that they don't have as much of a high hurdle to overcome than in the release. This is very... I mean, like, not even the wording, he absolutely means it. He actually said it in different ways here, multiple times. They really seem to be thinking that Age of Mythology is a game to be fixed and it's broken. No, I don't know. I don't agree definitely myself. I mean, like, sure, some things could be changed, but like, completely remaking the game is, in my opinion, just like crazy. And otherwise, like, no, that's a good point, actually, Cameron. If they're gonna be doing cooldowns in the campaigns, then they would have to be remaking them completely. So I guess they could be keeping it the same. If I'm not mistaken, in the Age of Empires 2, they also, some campaigns basically stay the same. They have, in Age of Empires 4, they have even different balance for campaigns, by the way. Which I'm kind of thinking is a bit of a lazy cop-out, but they just kind of wanted to keep them easy without having to touch them. So that's a very good point, Cameron. But nonetheless, this is just like, I don't know, they don't seem to be having, in my opinion, enough respect for the quality that Age of Mythology is, and why not only we, as the competitive players in the community, are still here with it 20 years later, but especially why so many people are actually liking to get it back and why there is such a hype. The hype is about because the original game was great. So saying that it's not the case and it wasn't good, I don't know. That's, in my opinion, going into quite untested and very dangerous waters for them. Wanted to be also seen actually what was the reception of that. Actually, fairly certain they were getting very high marks, Age of Mythology original. Okay, so where do we have that? Reception's gonna be somewhere south, right? You can see right about now the original. 89% game rankings, 89 out of 100 is Metacritic. Extended edition, of course, complete trash. This is actually very high compared, considering what kind of trash it was for years. Now it's somewhat better, but still worse than the original. But holy damn, this is very high for the quality it was back then. Yeah, original was absolutely popular. Look at that. Review scores 9.5 out of 10. B+, 9 out of 9.2, 9.3, 86%. And he's gonna be saying that the game was like almost lambasted and that it was bad. What the hell is this supposed to be? It really was. It was a big game. In my opinion, it really got unlucky because of Warcraft 3. That just like overshadowed it. And that's why it maybe didn't blow up a bit more. It was also one of the very earliest real 3D strategies, right? On the 3D engine. And frankly, for that, it was having pretty cool graphics, and they are still very solid. Sure, they are dated. I mean, like, I'm not gonna be hiding that, but they still look okay. Considering that it's a 20 years old 3D, which usually ages very badly. This definitely didn't age as badly. So I'm not entirely certain what he's actually really talking about. It's a very scary statement regarding the respect for the original. Total Annihilation Kingdoms. I actually never played that, but I know that it's very popular. But nonetheless, what do I right now say here? Sold 870 only in United States. That's a lot for back then. Today it might be seeming a bit uninteresting, but back then selling anywhere around 1 million is actually a lot. In the early 2000s still. Country's 10th best-selling computer game between January 2000 and August 2000. Look at that, 6 years. 6 years. You're having something like World of Warcraft in there. And it is the 10th best-selling game. And this dude, main designer and head of World's Edge, is gonna be saying that Age of Mythology was badly received and that it was basically trash. I mean, like, I don't know. Some things do not compute for me here. With Titans expansion reached 1.3 million units in the United States by August 2006. So basically you can see right now some 500,000 Titans. It's actually kind of a lot. Usually it's about, of course, expected like a half maybe or less for the expansion. You see the gold sales, yes. Indicated sales of at least 200,000 copies in the United Kingdom. Critical reception. Received critical acclaim, reaching an estimated 1 million units sold within 5 months of its release. That's actually really good as well for those ages, for that age. And yes, it was definitely regarding PC power, it was demanding. Hence, the huge UI to hide the kind of screen. And also, kind of like the pop limit was influenced by that. But it's gonna be used as an argument that the pop limit can be increased. No, well, yeah, but you mustn't forget the fact that the game is balanced about that with pop limit of the units and general balance. It is still part of it right now that it's, sure, it can be higher, but you still need to be accounting for that in balancing decisions. It's not as easy as to increase the pop limit and everything is fine. It really isn't. My brother got it to me, Age of Mythology, on Christmas after the release, brought it from Norway, where he was studying. So we played with friends fairly early. I wasn't having too much of a bad computer back then. Entirely certain what kind of graphics I was playing. That's really way beyond me at this point 20 years ago. But I was able to play it, so apparently I was having good enough computer. But nonetheless, the game received nominations for Computer Game of the Year and Computer Strategy Game of the Year in the annual Interactive Achievement Awards. GameSpot named Age of Mythology the best computer of November 2002. Runner-up for GameSpot's annual Best Single-Player Strategy Game on PC. Best Multiplayer Strategy Game on PC Awards, which went respectively to Medieval, Total War, and Warcraft 3. Now, yeah, again, if there wasn't Warcraft 3, the world would have been a whole different place for Age of Mythology. Just kinda came out at a bit unfortunate timing. So really, it's just like absolutely audacious what he's saying in there. That somehow the reception wasn't good. It really was. Still Voodoo era. I mean, like at that point, I'm not sure if I was already having something new, or I was probably still running some kind of old Mac store, probably. I was having some computer, No, I'm thinking like 8 megabytes, by the way. That was megabytes you were talking there, not gigabytes, of course. Or was I already having something new? I'm trying to remember when I was getting the Radeon, but it probably was later. Nah, I was getting the Radeon, that had to be later, to be honest. It had to be like 2006, maybe 5. No, if I was playing Age of Empires 3, I already had to be having a new graphics card for that, for sure. That was a beast on the computer. Again. Unfortunately, don't remember what I was having back then. Could have been, though, having actually some NVIDIA, though. Because I was having NVIDIA, then I was having Radeon on my old computer. Maybe I already had NVIDIA back then. You were buying the same one with my brother. But I legit can't recall which kind of version it was. Maybe I will be able to find it somewhere. Could have been having something like that, but yeah, would have to kind of look through some kind of records or whatever to figure out what I was actually using back then. Yep. We're just gonna be reading that article right now, Flame, and just like... There's no way that AutoQ is not gonna be in if they are in the extra Xbox things even for PC guys. So yeah, AutoQ is gonna be absolutely in. I'm just gonna at this point going through the absolute audacity of what he said, Isgreen, about just like trying to say that Age of Mythology is a bad game and that they need to improve upon it and that it was like badly received. Those are just like absolutely horrible mistreatments of the game. And that should be just like a huge warning light to everybody who is actually thinking that they know what they are doing or having any kind of respect for the original game in the first place, because they evidently don't. They're just like real scary. If I was saying scary before about the changes and whatnot, this is actually something where you should be jumping out of your chair and being very cautious about everything that's gonna happen about this game by now. Yep. Maybe he's confusing with Extended Edition, where exactly as he said, he would be absolutely right. EE was trash, and of course the reception is according. So if he comes out and basically corrects it and he meant Extended Edition, then I'm gonna be alright, you made a mistake. But if he doesn't, you have a problem, mister. No, Age of Mythology graphics were praised by the majority of viewers. IGN reviewer Steve Butts stated that some fantastic effects and believable animations made this one a joy to watch. I mean, like really, for that age and for that day, graphics were really superb. This was one of the first 3D games, really 3D strategies back then, and it looked really cool. And Shadowfax, thank you very much for the raid. I mean, like, you mustn't forget that Adam Isgreen is the guy who basically somehow believes that drag scroll is a good idea. So therefore, that's why it's gonna be in all the DEs and Age of Empires 4 and everything. So, I mean, like, I understand that he loves it for Command and Conquer that he designed and he's behind. But kind of like the idea that it's a good idea in today's age. I'm having a bit of a different opinion on that. Nonetheless, great graphics. As he mentioned, the differences between the armies and environments are awesome. As such, he gave the graphics a rating 9 out of 10. Meanwhile, GameSpot reviewer Greg Kasavin also rated the graphics 9 out of 10, stating that Age of Mythology is a great-looking game, filled with bright colors and carefully detailed animations. Yes, especially the bright colors is very important, because plenty people and plenty developers want to be having some kind of weird muted colors and whatever. I always enjoy bright colors in the games. You don't have to be afraid of them, and even with bright colors you can be creating a sense of fear. Diablo 1 is a great example. It is filled with colors, and it is a great atmospheric game. It just kind of speaks out about your abilities of creating that atmosphere. Well, that Ernest acknowledged, and Ernest that's the main actual project lead, I'm thinking he is, right? So just, it is not like Ernest as in the word in English, but an actual person, the main dev, acknowledged our current competitive scene and wants to boost us. I don't know. I mean, like, you just can't be believing those things. Based on the experience, well, they just basically using it mostly in all the DEs, and Age of Empires 4 basically just to placate the community and kind of buy the community goodwill. Hey, this player you know and you like has been with us, and he has said that it's gonna be alright to use his name, no? And well, suddenly you're gonna be having plenty of people believing if that guy is okay with it, then it has to be okay. And that's the reason why they are doing that. And on the other effect, it's gonna be also those people invited in are gonna be, of course, somewhat peer pressured to be basically liking the game, and they're gonna be very much kind of not wanting to speak too bad about them because they were invited in, treated nicely, and you know how it goes. Just kind of like not even a written bias, can be just like an unwritten one. You need to be really careful about that. I mean, like, people were flown in for Age of Empires 4, and it released in what kind of state, right? With kind of like basically assertions by all those invited in that it's a great game and going great. You are just having just like direct examples of why this doesn't work and it doesn't matter at all. So just don't fall into the trap again. Just wait until it's out and make your own opinion. But it doesn't matter. Age of Empires 4, they were having a group of people flown in, and all of them were praising the game. That it's going in a great way, that they are listening to them and whatnot. And what released? And how was the state after that? It's just like irrelevant. It just doesn't matter. And the opinions like these. Especially in the way that Microsoft uses it for the Age of franchise and always have. They are having all kinds of councils and they basically like straight ignore them. I mean, like, you know how it goes with Age of Empires 4 balance in Age of Empires 2 as well. It's practically the same thing. Even if the players are sometimes trying to say something to them, they mostly get ignored, or it basically gets into pipeline in a year. So yeah, they listen, but to things that they actually want to listen to, and they are basically somewhat wanting to work with. Yeah, just gonna mean that the interview with Ernest Yuan seemed a lot more genuine. Yeah, not sure if I've seen that, so yep, can't entirely compare, so okay. Hopefully, no, well, I guess it can't be entirely too much worse than this, I imagine. Acknowledge Wubli. Yeah, that was also kind of funny. He was kind of like praising the community here, and of course no word of Wubli and user patch for Age of Empires 2, of course, as usual. They just can't be speaking those words, just kind of like showing that community is actually better at coding even their own game than they are. They just can't do that. Is the PC Gamer interview? Oh, right. Oh, well, no. Yeah, right now remember what was actually said there. I'm kind of thinking that it also doesn't entirely fit, because there is... It was kind of like a bit of an assumption of the journalist in there, so I'm not entirely certain if he really said it or not. But I definitely see a disconnect there between respecting kind of like the legacy of the game and at the same time doing fundamental changes, which they are. I think those two things just cannot mix together. It just that doesn't exist in my world. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but those things do not mix. So I'm thinking that At least he didn't say anything egregious like what we have heard here. So I can agree with you that it was better. But yeah, it was, I'm thinking, just like kind of classic what you can be expecting from the devs to say at this stage and in this kind of way. I'm just gonna be always remembering how they straight lied to people when they were actually showcasing on Gamescom. I'm thinking it was Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, and in the game showcase there was Cision and Isgreen, and they were having straight on stream, they were having problems with pathfinding. Their units were getting stuck, they weren't moving at all. And they said, just like, basically they said that they are having problems with stances and whatever like that. No, well, of course it wasn't the case. If you actually look at it directly, which I kinda did, basically frame by frame, it was evident that it has been nothing to do with stances, that it's simply broken pathfinding and AI for the units. And they straight lied to everybody's faces that it is basically something with stances and it has nothing to do with pathfinding. Of course, when the game released, everybody knows what was going on, how the game, of course, pathfinded and everything, so... Yes, they are just gonna say anything they can, and it doesn't matter if it's gonna be a straight lie, so you need to be very careful about believing anything they say. They are already recorded, straight lying to the community. So you need to be really careful with these. You could be saying that it's fairly standard that they do that in the gaming, but, well, that doesn't make it right? It's still something to be cautious about, and therefore, not gonna goblin up everything they say. And simply wait until you see it for yourself and test it for yourself. That's, of course, the best way how to tell if it's good or not. Yeah, well, no problem. Being optimistic. I'm just kind of thinking they really do not appreciate the depths the changes are gonna be actually reaching. I'm thinking that Chrono made very good points on RTS Sanctuary. That it could be heading into arcade nonsense. The gameplay is gonna be massively different, even though it seems like some players at least, are not entirely appreciating it, thinking that it's gonna be the same. No, it's just gonna be showing and needing quite a bit of different approach to the game. The repeated god powers and on-demand powers and such. It really is quite a huge deviation from kind of the formula that we have. And it also seems like they're gonna be doing significant design changes to the civilizations themselves. Even just, for example, taking the blessed construction and changing it into the temporal scaffolding for Chronos. It just kind of shows you they will be changing the civilizations and they will be therefore playing differently, most probably. Maybe it's gonna be just the only thing they change, but I very much doubt that. Yeah, because I mean, like, I was posting it on RTSS. It is on one of the screenshots I was posting on YouTube. The short with the screenshot. It's on 39 seconds of the video. I can probably at this point just gonna show the video. Okay. Nope, it's not time shift. It's temporal scaffolding. Increases the speed. Basically something like Lush, but it's gonna be increasing speed of building construction. So they're apparently just gonna be redesigning the civilizations. Not sure how deep, but to a certain degree they will. There's gonna be a tiny roll. Hello and welcome everyone. This is Blackadder at Blackadder's Place, and I have some information for you regarding
I have it muted, or
this sneak peek reveal.
why is it not playing exactly on the sound?
There is that at about 39 seconds.
Or maybe it is. Yeah, it's probably... sorry, it is probably playing, but yeah, my batteries on my headset are gonna be out.
Tooltip that seems to be saying temporal scaffolding.
So sorry for that.
Differentiation from the on-demand abilities come in, and it seems to be saying increases the construction speed of nearby buildings. So I guess some kind of general area of effect, just like Lush, as it also seems to be maybe having some blue circle on the left side that could be signifying its range. This is quite interesting because Fuxi or Fushi from Extended Edition also has a similar ability, so I guess it means some kind of general reshuffling or redesign, and other significant changes come in with Age of Mythology. I wanted to be having some detail, but it is on 39 seconds of the sneak peek reveal video. Hello and welcome everyone, this is Blackadder at Blackadder. And you don't have anything else anywhere else, something like that, so it's not gonna be anything random. This is, in my opinion, going to be a bit of a SketchUp for workers. So this is not like a direct screenshot from the game, in my opinion. This is kind of like a mock-up of things together, the same as the user interface there that you are mentioning. That, in my opinion, is basically just like a mock-up of how it should be looking and what kind of things are gonna be involved in it. Now that's the point. It says temporal scaffolding, passive, which is gonna be differentiation from the on-demand abilities. And it says increases the construction speed of nearby buildings. It's gonna be, and then on the picture you see on the left side, kind of like a circle, blue one. So that's gonna be most probably kind of like the range. So buildings are gonna be showing range because in the other Ds they already are. So no reason not to be adding that. So yeah, they're gonna be most probably redesigning quite a few things here. Hello and welcome everyone. You're gonna be able to read it better if you're gonna be looking at the video itself and stopping it at those 39 seconds. You're gonna be able to read it better. And there is that at about 39 seconds on the video. There is a screenshot of Chronos. Yeah, because if you're gonna be knowing, if you can realize the words there, it's gonna be that. That seems to be saying temporal scaffolding, passive, I guess differentiation from the on-demand abilities come in, and it seems to be saying increases the construction. It is definitely those words, because it's just kind of fitting in there, into like the up and down, up and down. I kind of wonder if there's actually some kind of UI or AI that can be actually piecing together even text like, for example, on the right side, that can be like fit in what it could be. I'll be thinking that might not be too hard actually to do. Significant changes come in with Age of Mythology Retold. So I hope this was useful, and see you with some other AoM tidbits. It's construction speed of nearby buildings. So it basically it's blessed construction combined with lush somewhat. So yeah, maybe this is gonna be the icon for that, not sure. But again, this is a mock-up, the same as there is a mock-up on that other part. What do we have right now? Do I have the link here somehow? Maybe some kind of new icon, but much more important. Second. Deep dive, I don't necessarily want that, but Age of Empires. The longer you're gonna be looking at it, the easier it's gonna be to see the words that are actually there. Nope, don't have TikTok. I don't have smartphone, so. Okay, 180, it's gonna be the, was it loaded before or is it after? User interface. By the way, this user interface. Oh, come on. Game to you that we all have been working so hard on and we love so much. So I'm very much curious if this user interface is only Xbox. It's obviously like some Ekanta version, as a Greek TC here in the middle. Or if it's basically like a full. I'm almost thinking, because this is very similar how Xbox user interfaces look for the other games. So I'm thinking it might not necessarily represent what we're gonna be seeing in-game. But yeah, I think this is gonna be most probably Xbox. I think in time shifting is gonna be in still. I'm thinking that the time shift is still there. I think it is the icon to the right. Let's maybe right now show it now. Right? I'm thinking this is time shift. The one to the bottom is, in my opinion, time shift, because it kind of looks like a bit of a, like the hourglass. Or maybe it could be Observer Moradin. It could be, but I'm thinking it's if I'm not mistaken, it's similar to the Xbox interfaces, so maybe. But yeah, could be Observer possibly. But I'm not entirely certain if it's gonna be, because if Capture Each are supposed to be working on Observer interface, then why would it be done in Forgotten Empires studio? That's, I'm thinking maybe not entirely what I would be expecting, but who knows what's gonna be the connection there. But nonetheless, the user interface here. what you have. This, in my opinion, is a mock-up. This is, in my opinion, not directly from the game, but basically things put together on a screenshot so that the programmers know what to work with. This is obviously planted, right? Because he's working on... It is kind of supposed to be showing us the information. This is a quotation mark leak. So yeah, but I'm thinking this is not entirely representative of what it's gonna be necessarily looking in-game. Of course, like the order of the things and whatnot. Because I mean, like the first one definitely doesn't look like Jason. Odysseus may be here. This could be Heracles, to be honest, because this guy has bow, so that could be Odysseus. This could be Heracles or some kind of bare-chested dude, and the last one maybe Bellerophon, I don't know. Could be, but the Jason, I'm not entirely certain I'm seeing anything there. That one I'm a bit skeptical about. I don't see anything there. Kyo was villager, that was clear. Yeah. This goat icon is also confusing me a bit. I'm thinking it's gonna be something to do with basically herding animals. This one is obviously give away resources to drop off, therefore. Force drop. This is gonna be the farm build. Who knows what these pictures really are. I'm really thinking this is not a representative of anything. I'm just kinda thinking these are random things put together so that the developers know what to code for. So that's why it's a bit confusing for us. Yeah, it's gonna be placeholders most probably. Somewhat. Who knows? I'm thinking that this guy has bow, this one, some kind of bare-chested. It definitely looks like Odysseus as well, so I can agree that we are not entirely clear on that. No, 800 is the same as it is, right? And 50 favor. It just shows kind of like 20 range, 25 is the garrison ability, right? 3 times it looks like it's gonna be basically 3 arrows. Or what is it right now? 1, 2. This is gonna be probably 1 melee. 2. I'm not entirely certain what this means, because TC doesn't have TC actually 2 arrows only. Or does he have 3? No, well, the auto queue, I still cannot believe it would be very weird to remove it if they add in the things from Xbox. So it's gonna be in my opinion, somehow. It is gonna be some, first maybe melee, the second is gonna be pierce maybe, but that's gonna be then missing the crash damage, unless it's basically not shown if it's not relevant, maybe. 3 times, feels to me like 3 times the attack, so therefore like 3 arrows or whatever, not sure. Not really sure. But what was the other things? Yeah, was something else you were talking about that maybe I wanted to show or not? In 3D, you can change between 3 different UIs. And there are gonna be, I guess, also mods, of course, with that. Any word on Titan's boost? The lady in the reveal said they will do more building damage. Not anything special, just that they're gonna be doing more to buildings and they're gonna be walking through water. And there's some kind of speculation that maybe some other myth units could be able to walk through water, but it's speculation so far. And to be honest, I'll be thinking that the Titans also should be losing kind of like hitbox practically. That they shouldn't be blocked by units before them. I mean, like, what is the idea, right? You should be able to practically walk through them as if nothing was going on. In my opinion, I kind of just think that blocking them with caravans and whatnot, sure, it's a cool skill, but I don't think it's making too much sense, right? And it's making them way weaker than they should be. So, all the power to Titans. They need to be way better than they are. And Zarishawa, thank you for the follow a bit earlier. Or that. I'm trying to remember how it works in Age of Empires 3. What is kind of like the movement in there. But I don't think they flow as in do in Age of Empires 4, where you can be moving them away by basically pushing them forward, right? I don't think that's gonna be really that much possible. And also Knight, thank you for the follow. But nonetheless, you're therefore going for some extra info here, how audacious that statement by Isgreen actually is, that Age of Mythology somehow is a bad game. Great looking game filled with bright colors, carefully detailed animations. Game Revolution also appreciated the Age of Mythology's graphics, stating in their review that the new 3D landscape looks good, and including graphics as one of the positives in the review summary. PC Gamer reviewer William Harms admired the graphics. The environments, units, and buildings are packed with detail, and excitedly commented on the effects. What really impressed me, though, were the game's animations. When a Minotaur smacks a dude with his club, the schmo goes flying, skids on the ground, and then bounces back in the air. Yeah, and then, well, you have this, and then what they, for example, did with graphics on something like Meteors in Extended Edition. Okay, yeah. I just cannot, at this point, I have to be laughing at that, even though it's an incredible tragedy what happened. Things that we need in Retold, Moradin saying better pathing, smooth FPS, and ping to play competitive, balance patch team, listen to the community. I mean, like, they already saying they want to be continuing perpetuity, so the game is never gonna be balanced, and you're gonna be getting different balance every month or few months. So, get used to it. I'm also gonna be very curious if they're gonna be keeping at least what has been also implemented additionally to EE, and that is keeping recorded games viable. But I'm having a very strong feeling they're gonna ignore that because they don't care about it in the other games. So just every patch is gonna be meaning goodbye recorded games forever. That's gonna be a very sad story. Good OBS tool and more balanced maps. No, well. No, maps you shouldn't be believing in, because maps are a tragedy in all the remasters and games. Community is always making better ones, and for some reason they just kind of like massively resisting any kind of improvements on their work process in there. I don't know why, but it simply is a thing. In all the remasters, simply community makes always much better maps, and you're always gonna be having the trash versions in rated and in the official game, so so that is not entirely too clear it's gonna be the case. They're very much resisting working with community on maps and with the actual people who know what they are doing. So yeah, I'm definitely not optimistic on that one, unless they suddenly kind of like change their approach and somebody like Rebels Rising was working with them, then maybe we could be getting somewhere. But if it's gonna be still their internal people, then it's gonna be, again, step back from what we have on Woobly. There should be at least some kind of hopefully more tools for the maps, so they're gonna be a bit easier to script, because there are some things that we can't be doing in the map script in here. Yeah, well, I understand the message, Film. I mean, like, anybody's guess, Moradin. Anybody's guess why that happens. They just kinda don't care enough. They just don't care enough because, well, most of the players don't care enough either. And just kinda like investing more money into some more efficient and better people for kinda like a few % of competitive players. I mean, like, again, they would be happier if competitive gameplay didn't exist. And they could be just focusing on campaigns and just kinda like having the absolute even less effort than they already are putting into all the patches and stuff and supposed improvements. They would be the happiest in the world if that would be the true situation. So where did we right now end here? Okay, the game's soundtrack was also praised by reviewers. Now, of course, that is kind of iconic. Although several commented that it was repetitive and predictable at times. I mean, like, what do you want? 10 hours of the soundtrack? IGN described it as great if repetitive music, whilst Game Revolution declared that the sound really showcases Ensemble's continued attention to detail, before going on to praise the audio snippets in various languages. IGN was pleased with Age of Mythology's campaign and not bothered by its length. Instead, they stated that the meaningful and engaging single-player campaign provides a nearly flawless experience. However, GameSpot was slightly critical of it, claiming that while some of the campaign missions do feature some unusual circumstances or objectives that change, the game's story isn't incredibly engaging. It was compromised by stating that Age of Empires fans wouldn't expect an amazing campaign, they would make a beeline for the game's random map mode anyway. I'm kinda guessing that that person who was actually making the review didn't entirely have that much of a clue what he was saying and about the franchise, but nonetheless, PC Gamer elaborated more on the campaign, however, saying many of the missions are extremely well crafted and that sprinkled throughout these encounters are moments of genuine comedy, a truly delightful surprise. However, they still found reasons to criticize. Regrettably, most of AoM's missions suffer from one recurring frustrating problem, a severe case of build basitis. The reviewer elaborated, I know base building is inherent to the genre, but even the most ardent fan will be put off by just how much there is. What's most disappointing is that AoM setting really lends itself to imaginative mission design, and I don't think the designers took full advantage of the backdrop, which is a shame. No, AoE4 might be... Oh, well, AoE4 is not a success. Definitely it is not a number success for Microsoft, because in my opinion they overshot their expectations based on the Ds. And Age of Empires 4 is also not like a massive success even overall, especially not after launch. Now it's somewhat alright, also by the reactions of the players, but after launch it was really kind of not great. So... yeah, the fact that you're gonna be getting the good reviews, they did pretty good reviews. But as far as the quality of the game, definitely did have its problems. But it's still having decent player base. So I guess you could probably call it sufficient success. I think it is sufficient success for them. I'm thinking that it's not enough for what they wanted. They, in my opinion, were having very high expectations, which is why the director was basically ending in December of the after release, and also the head studio at World's Edge also left in like February, or what is it, January the next year, and they were looking for a business manager after. So I'm kind of thinking that the results weren't exactly what Microsoft was expecting. I'm thinking it did make enough money, and it's in plus, fairly healthy in my opinion. I'm just gonna say that kind of like the state of the game at release and a long time after was definitely not great. A lot left to be desired. And I'm also fairly certain that Microsoft didn't think that it was a success, number-wise. As for the profits. Fairly certain that they overshot a lot based on the popularity of the remasters. I mean, like, there's nothing that basically there's nothing after AoM, so of course they have to be betting on that. They have nothing else to do. 5th remaster of Age of Empires 2 after. Age of Empires 6 on a new engine again, or 5, sorry. So they don't have anything else to do, so of course they have to be banking on that. The editors of Computer Games magazine named Age of Mythology the 4th best computer game of 2002 and called it amazingly well-balanced game, both in terms of its pacing and its mix of standard historical and fantastical units. It was a nominee for PC Gamer's US's 2002 Best Real-Time Strategy Game Award, which ultimately went to Warcraft 3. Reign of Chaos. So yeah, kinda like the audacity of Mr. Isgreen to call Age of Mythology a bad game that needs to be fixed. Interesting. I dare to be having a different opinion on that front. And that's making me kind of worried what kind of steps they're gonna be taking in the game. and what they're gonna be wanting to actually all change there besides what we already know. No, I think they should have much more importantly gone with Age of Mythology 2 instead of Age of Mythology Retold, because there is a very good chance they're gonna be perverting the name and kind of like the game in general. If it doesn't manage to be a really great game and superb in all fronts, Age of Mythology is gonna be suffering for that. And the question is if it's gonna be able to recover for it. So there's a lot riding on that, even for all of us as the community. So they better make sure that they get things right. But frankly, with the changes they're trying to make, I don't know, it's just gonna be a different game. So depends if that game is gonna be fun or not. But it's certainly not gonna be Age of Mythology anymore. I wouldn't say so. That people are playing only because they are hopeful for Retold. I wouldn't definitely say so. People will be playing still. It's gonna be definitely beyond like maybe some kind of efforts now, but I would still be the community living. But they haven't shown really anything super often, so we are just basically comparing nonsenses. And they've already, from the things that they've said, it's obviously gonna be having different gameplay. Even they themselves say that it's gonna be a different gameplay than original Age of Mythology. Because it will. Multi-god powers, on-demand abilities, higher pop limit, it's just like massive balance change of everything. And just like even design change, and apparently they're gonna be changing even the gods themselves, based on the example that we have shown. So we're probably gonna be relearning a completely new game. Kind of like the E problem is that it's kind of like they screw up the engine in general. So even if you're gonna be having good computer, it's still gonna be having a potential to lag for you and stuff. It's kind of like they messed up the engine in general. So today it's probably not entirely that much of a problem with computers. Back then it kind of was when it released, but now not entirely as much. No, nonetheless, just kind of wanted to be there for going through this very interesting piece that I have found on the Age of Empires Discord, on the Age of Mythology time, or the kind of like part of it. Like really. How can that be actually said about Age of Mythology? What has been said here? Where was it so that you can highlight it again? Okay, that's the Xbox coming to PC. Like this, like you'll know that this amazing game inside of Age of Mythology maybe didn't get all of it. Just quite right out the gate, and that's what we're doing with this time around with Retold. And like, I just like don't like even just like this audacity of thinking that you can be doing something better than somebody else who already succeeded, and you're just gonna saying no, they kinda did trash, and I'm just gonna be doing it better. Now, so far they haven't entirely shown that too much with the other DEs. Definitely not with their original ideas. All of them had to be massively retweaked, and also that goes for Age of Empires 4 and changed after. So, yeah, their original ideas aren't entirely that solid. They don't have that much of a track record for that, unfortunately. So we'll see what, well, we as a community are gonna be having to force them to fix with this one. Yeah, criminal to me that it wasn't. At least this is right about now. The original. I'm kind of not entirely certain if this was basically said by both or this is only by the journalist. But it almost seems like that maybe they can like mutually agree on that. I'm kind of hoping not. That at least Isgreen didn't go that far into it. It should have been, of course, right about now. Therefore, corrected that, I guess. But launch and reception was just quite a bit fine. Okay, so that was a bit of interesting information here. From some new article, just 8 hours old, or how much, 9 hours maybe. So, hope you enjoyed. Maybe some kind of extra info. Again, gonna be giving you the link for that if you are interested to read it for yourselves. So, what are we possibly talking about? So we're gonna be, of course, closing as well. No, considering I was also aiming to be ending quite some time ago. No, interesting stuff happens. So there we go. I'm kind of also curious about the requirements for what they are gonna be for Retold in the first place. That's also quite a bit of a question. Who's gonna be even able to play it still? That's gonna be fairly curious. Hey, maybe I'm not even gonna be able to play it on my, at that point, almost 12 years old computer. So maybe I'm not even gonna be able to spend any kind of time on testing that. Very easily could happen. But hopefully it's not gonna be worse than Age of Empires 4, which is kinda so-so, even for streaming on my computer. Yeah, that's also a problem with even just like the network coding on Extended Edition. It's just gonna like bust it from all kinds of points of view. You're gonna be having some normal 1v1 experience, maybe if you are close to each other and both having good computers. Single player is gonna be fine for you most probably, but anything else, it's just gonna be having a very high chance of being not entirely too fun for you. It's maybe kind of a good point. Maybe like Age of Empires 3D requirements could be the same, because it is gonna be supposedly ported into like AoE 3D, which I was kind of expecting is gonna happen because it just makes sense. They already worked on that. So on one hand, it could be promising something's been already basically worked out through 3D. On the other hand, you're gonna be moving plenty mechanisms that are not in 3D and having to basically recode them again. And that's gonna be having potential to be not entirely nice with such an old coding base and probably plenty of landmines everywhere and some hotfixes and whatnot. That really does have some kind of problem, I think, in waiting for to happen in there.